Hello, Lisa Jane here, host of the Parentpreneur Club. And today I have a member with me, Petros Galanoulis, who is a mental health counsellor. Hello, Petros.
Hi, Lisa.
It's great to have you on board. And today we're going to have a discussion about fear, where it lies and how to work with it.
Absolutely. Fear, we've all experienced it at different levels. Sometimes there's a level of fear that we don't really care too much about because it doesn't affect us that much. But what happens when it does? And, where does the fear lie in the situation we're facing? And do we need to give up that dream if it's a dream that's causing us some fear, and what we do about it? And I think you and I both have some pretty interesting ways of sorting this one out.
Yes, I do get a lot of clients actually coming to me when they have leveled up or stepped up and wanting to be seen more with the work that they do, and then the fear comes up for them. So for me, I help them to identify what is going on for them, and then just work a little bit more on the story that they tell, because that's what it is. Fear is a story.
Well, as the old saying goes, fear stands for false events appearing real. If you spread the word fear out in each letter, that's the word, and it really is. And we're all, if you want to use the term, guilty of doing it. The irony of it is, at the end, when you finally face that fear, you realise it wasn't that scary after all. And almost every time you come to that conclusion.
I know, it's very true. I've gone through a lot in my life with domestic violence and a separation, and feeling like I was going to become homeless because I had a house that I couldn't look after on my own as a single mum. And when I look back now, I go, wow, that is nothing compared to what I'm going through right now. And then in years to come, I'll look back again and go, wow. But I do find that I'm not as fearful as I was in the past, and I'm much more empowered. And that's what a lot of people do ask me, Petros. They'll say, how do you do it? How do you step into your power? How do you do so much and not be fearful? And I think it's just the studies that we've done. And I can speak for myself here. I implement everything that I've learned. I use the tools that I teach. And so if you keep doing that, if you keep relearning all the stuff, all the tools, because a lot of it is everything that I've been taught and everything I'm reading now is very similar. It's just re-educating myself all the time. And sometimes we forget, and that's when we do fall back into the void of fear.
And the other thing too is, the more often you challenge yourself to face your fears, the less daunting doing so becomes, which in itself is an irony. But when I'm sitting with a client as a sort of a trauma crisis counselor, when I'm sitting with a client who comes to me and says, I had one client that came to me and he was really scared. He had this fear, this anxious fear around his wedding. And I thought, that's very interesting. I said, do you not love your wife? He goes, I absolutely love her. She's the greatest thing in the world. So I took him on a little process that I do that I call proximity of fear, because, I couldn't think of a better name. And the idea is if you can imagine yourself on a straight line, right? And you're in the middle of that line represents the journey or the event that you're facing. So if you're in the middle, behind you at the beginning is making the decision to marry this person and the proposal. The middle is, the journey getting to the wedding day, and the end, in front of you is the wedding day. So what I got this person to do is I said, I want you to just, as you're sitting there, close your eyes, imagine yourself on this line. And when you think about your fear, are you looking straight ahead? Are you looking close in front of you or beside you? Or are you looking over your shoulder behind you? Now, this task came about when I, by chance, asked this question to a couple of clients, and I noticed their eye movement, which said to me that they're looking somewhere in their mind's eye. That was the assumption I made. So this gentleman said, look, I'm looking straight ahead. And I said, how far? Is it close by or into the distance? And he said, I'm looking into the distance. I said, well, I'm going to take that as your fear is with something to do with the wedding or afterwards. I said, you're not looking behind you, so you're confident in your decision to marry this woman. You're not looking close by or beside you, which means at the moment you're fine. Everything's coming along fine. You're okay with it. I said, what's your problem with after the act has been done? And he said, Petros, I don't know if I'm confident enough as a man or as a husband. I said, yes, I've never been a husband. I said, when you get married, there's this added pressure now because it's so formal. So we realized that he had a fear, but the fear wasn't necessarily over the whole aspect of proposing and being married. His fear was specific to how he would hold up as a husband. So suddenly we had something to work with. So then the next step for that for me was that, okay, what is the story you've created? Because it is just a story. And if we acknowledge that it's just a story, you've got two things again in your power. A, if you're the storyteller, you can change the story. And B, let's assume the worst, right? What would you have to do, say, be in order to be the bad husband you're afraid you might be? And so we'll sit down, we'll list all of these things, and we'll say, for these things to happen, what would you have to do? Then the two-part question to finish it off is, what's the likelihood that knowing who you are today, you'll do this, this, and this? And we'll scrub out in most cases, scrub out all of it. Anything that's left over, we say, all right, well, if we understand this is the behavior that leads to this, what are some of the checks you can put into place? What are some of the alternative, better behaviors that we can start conditioning from now? So all of a sudden, we shift from the story, which in itself can be very confidence boosting, and we move into a position of solution focus and allowing to enjoy what's ahead as opposed to being fearful of it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a lovely process. For me, it's very different. I do timeline regression. So clients that come to me are quite emotional. And so one of the areas which is quite popular is anger. They come frustrated, impatient, and they're angry, irritable because something's not working for them. So there are other emotions as well, but this is a really good one for today. So I really hear them. I listen to them. I listen to their story. And what I can feel is fear. So we start working on that. And a lot of times, they don't believe that it's fear. They're just really angry because they can't get what they want. However, once I hear the story, I then ask them, where else is this story playing out in your life? Today, yesterday, 10 years ago when you were a child? Or where do you see yourself doing this in the future? So just identifying it, that it's something that's repeating all the time and it keeps coming back to them because they need to work on it. So then we dive a little bit deeper and start looking at where the fear is, where the voids are, the negatives, minuses, and the drawbacks to the situation. So I get them away from the anger. The fear starts to dissolve because I start looking at it differently from different angles. And then once we start looking at all the voids, I then start talking to them about the benefits and the positive plus and gains to all the different kind of voids. And by the end of it, they get to understand that this situation now is okay. It's good for them that it's happening because it's helping them to evolve and grow, and something shifts in them. Their frequency changes. And then at the end of our discussion, I'll ask them, okay, how are you feeling now? And they're like, I don't understand. I'm not even angry. I'm not even scared. I'm ready to take the next step. So that's the tool that I use. It's a beautiful discussion that we have. So it's not clinical the way that I do it in my practice. And so I can use it everywhere. I could use it at a bus stop if someone was being impatient about when's this bus coming, and just have that discussion. I've used it with my 8-year-old daughter a lot, actually, because when I pick her up from school, all kids do it. They go, oh, Mom, my day's bad. And I know she's doing it to try and get some sort of attention. However, when I get her to understand the benefits in what's happened at school, she just keeps growing and growing more so, to the point that sometimes I do just let her have a whinge because she needs to stay an 8-year-old kid.
Yeah. And there's so much irony around fear as well. When you face it, the more you face it and break it down, the more it disappears. Secondly, the more rational you make it feel, the more irrational it actually is.
That's right, yes.
And fear is simply an alert to say, hang on, you need to fix something here. to make it better for yourself as well. So, it's fear is certainly something people need to work on, because it really is an illusion. And I'm not talking about, yes, this is a ridiculous example, but if you're swimming in a lake up north of Australia and there's a crocodile there, there's a genuine alert there to get out of the water. Silly example, I know, but just wanting to make that point. The fear we're talking about is the fear that is created, up here when we start overthinking, when we don't plan enough. Even in a scary situation like swimming in the water with a crocodile, you want to face that fear and say, well, okay, there's a crocodile there. I now need to remove myself from the area, rather than start panicking, splashing around and complaining, so to speak.
Yes. So something you said just, 45 seconds ago was to fix. I don't use the word fix. I know some people do, but I feel like everything is happening for a reason, and it's meant to be, and it's okay to have that fear, that feeling, that I do understand it is an illusion. At the same time too, we need to know, where is it coming from? Because it could be your intuition speaking to you as well. And is the fear really an illusion? If your intuition is telling you not to, well, let's take a step back, going to that place to swim when there's sharks, you might be walking there before you've seen a sign and had that feeling of, maybe I shouldn't go swimming today. So I'm getting that feeling now. Is that feeling really an illusion?
Absolutely, I get what you're saying there. I would say that's more a cautionary alert from your intuition, but certainly I see the connection that you're making there, in that, I'm not saying ignore fear and just say, oh, it's all just an illusion. There is a wisdom and a guidance there, which absolutely, when I say fix things, it just means perhaps also to become aware.
I think the aware is quite good to use, like acknowledge it when you're feeling it, sit with it, acknowledge it, and identify what is blocking you from getting to where you want to be. And sometimes just living that fear is okay. Being in it is okay, because you need to actually look. If you keep just sweeping it under the covers, you're going to build up, especially in your solar plexus, all this anxiety, and then one day you're going to either explode or break down in tears, and then it's much harder to then work through the fear itself. So acknowledging is very powerful.
Exactly. And that's what we mean when we say fix and when we say those kinds of things, because fear isn't necessarily a bad thing. Remember, fear can keep you grounded, in the sense that it stops you from, getting your head in the clouds, which the ego can often do, where we become reckless, or, we become greedy, or we become something that goes against our divine nature at the end of the day. So, but it's just all about understanding fear better, and understand that going towards the fear is better than going away from the fear.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. Yeah. Work towards it and work with it, and then watch it dissolve, level up, another fear will come up, and it just cycle.
It's like grabbing fog. Fog, you look at it, this thick cloud, and think, oh my God, if I was in that, I'd be suffocating right now. But the more you step into it, towards it, the more it disappears. And that's what fear is. It's a fog.
It's a beautiful analogy that you have explained. Thank you. So, this has been a great discussion around fear, what it looks like, and the steps to take. You've got two techniques here, modalities that you've learnt today, and you may have your own. So I'd love to hear more about your techniques or modalities that you use in your workplace. You can comment down below, or for the ones that are watching this that are feeling the fear, you can contact either of us. We got Petros or myself, and I'll put up a link of our pages that you can send a message to us. We are both members of the Parentpreneur Club, which is a Facebook group that I've created. I'm the host, and it's for parents who are entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs who work with parents. For example, Petros, He's a godfather though, so that steps him up a little bit. So if you'd like to join the Parentpreneur Club, I'll put a link there for you as well. Thank you, Petros, for today. I've had a lovely discussion.
Thank you. It was a great discussion.
Excellent. Thanks again, everyone. Bye.
Bye.